Right, so I'm gonna stop. All right. Good afternoon, depending on where you're at. Good morning to some of you, but thank you all for joining us. I am Becky Real, founder of Real Home Care Consulting, and I'm so honored to be back here with my friend Nick. For those of you that were not on our session a few weeks ago about social media, I think we got through like 3 of the 24 questions that people submitted. So here we are, part 2. These conversations are meant to really just be just that, very open, authentic conversations. There's no slides. This is really your time. We have a bunch of questions, but please feel free to ask questions along the way and chime in by using the Q&A button. I will let Nick introduce himself, and then we're just going to dive into the questions since we need to get through more than 3 today.
Yeah, we'll do our best. So, yeah, I'm excited to be here. My name is Nick Bonitatibus. I know it's a mouthful. If you say hippopotamus, then it's easier to say. And I am a professional speaker and video coach specializing in helping home care agency owners. And so, I love video. I love this format, but I love teaching even more. And so being able to answer these questions and just like jam out on, marketing is so fun. So I am grateful to be here and excited to dive in again for part 2.
Yeah, all right, let's do it. And so Nick and I, we met virtually last year, and then we've connected at some conferences, and there was just this natural energy. We both really love helping people. I help agencies, whether they're getting started or plateauing. Nick, we both really are very passionate about helping and educating. So I love working with him. But I want to start for people that weren't on the first talk we did. I want to kind of just talk a little bit about like social media and the role it plays within home care. And I want to kind of get your opinion about it because I think it has such um everyone has such a different opinion on it and whether or not it's people don't understand it or understand the power of it. What's your take on social media with a home care agency? Let's start there. And real quick, if you missed part 1, someone just asked, if you missed part 1, when we send out this recording, we'll send out the link to part 1 as well for you. So yes, we'll send it out.
Awesome. Yeah.
All
So
right. Yep.
what's really unique about like social media is constantly evolving, and that's what people need to realize is that it's constantly changing. And so what I actually find is that when it comes to just like general social media business pages, I think that a lot of agencies are spending too much time on social media or none at all. Um, and or they're outsourcing it and just having someone else do it because someone told them that they're supposed to post. And so like those are the kind of like really big mistakes because of the fundamental principles around social media is that it's meant to build relationships. That is the fundamental aspect. And so you can't just like outsource building relationships, just like you can't outsource social media. You can't just have someone posting cookie cutter content. You're just going to waste your money spending money on things that are getting posted that aren't real. They're not authentic to your business. They're not a representation of your brand. And so it's like it's not like
Mhm.
you would send some random person out to market your business. Why would you let them control your social media? That's your online presence. And so
Yeah.
where I find that social media gets its greatest value is just how can we be most authentic as possible in really sharing like real raw photos, things that are going on in the business, but also keeping in mind that if you do have limited time and or resources, I recommend focusing more on your own personal brand, like things like your personal LinkedIn profile, than actually all the time on your business pages. Because what I find is, again, people don't want to work with logos. They don't want to follow business pages. They want to follow people. They want to connect with real people. And so the more that you really think about social media as a building relationships tool instead of as a marketing tool, you're going to generate more business if you think about it in that way. Because we know building relationships work, period. And so treating social media as a tool to build relationships instead of as a vehicle for blasting about your services
Mhm.
is going to be the differentiator in whether or not you get results or whether or not you just waste time and money, throwing things at social media.
I couldn't agree more. And I think like one of my biggest pet peeves when I see agencies on social media, and you can tell very quickly when they're outsourcing it, right? Like you know right away because it's the same. They're posting one of two things. They're posting for hiring, right? A job ad, or they're posting a list of their services. And my whole thing with social media is it's about creating community and showing your culture of your organization. And that's not doing that. That's not how you're going to grow your following. That's not how you're going to engage your following. And to me, I always tell clients that social media is not necessarily how you're going to get clients. That's not the point of it. So you need to get that out of your head. Like that's not the purpose of it. Will you? Maybe, but that can't be your reason for doing it. To me, it's about the community aspect, right? It's about the culture. It's about using it as proof of concept. Because if you have a caregiver that's looking to join your organization and they go on your Instagram or they go on your Facebook page and they're seeing that there's an actual culture there, that's going to be more impactful for that caregiver and create excitement for them to want to come and interview, right? But yeah, you have to change your mindset and you shouldn't be focusing your time, right? Social people overthink social media too all the
Oh my
time.
gosh.
Oh,
That's the biggest thing. It's actually really easy. I yell at a lot of my clients all the time. They're like, oh, I did this really fun event. I'm like, did you take photos? And they're like, no. And I'm like,
right,
this is what I'm talking about. Like, the best social media is like, you just did this thing, you take a photo, and then you post about
right,
doing that thing. It's like,
right,
we're not creating new things, we're just posting what you're already doing out in the community. And like,
right,
if you're truly marketing your business, you're going to networking events, you're going to community events, you're hosting events, you're going to all of these different things that you do on a regular, consistent basis. You're bringing in caregivers for orientation, you're doing caregiver training, like all of these things that you're just already doing in your business. Take a photo, post about it.
yep,
Simple.
yep, yep. Today, one of my clients posted a picture of her holding the mug I gave her. And she was feeling inspired and grateful. And so she posted that today. I was like, and it got such great engagement. It took her 2 minutes, right? Like we don't need to overthink, but if we're trying to build community within your own community, simple things like if you're at a coffee shop, take a picture of the coffee shop, tag the coffee shop. That's how you build those local connections with other business owners too. So I guess if you're going to walk away with one thing from this part, it's don't overcomplicate it, don't overthink it, show the people and the process and things you're doing over the job ad, the list of services. Chances are, if they're following you, they know what you do. We don't have to keep reminding them, but they
Right.
don't know
I
who
was
you
about to bring
are.
that up. Yeah, it's like the reason why people are doing this is because they think that the social media has some magic powers that when you post something that like all of a sudden when you post something about a job ad that your ideal target caregiver is going to see this content. They're not. They are absolutely, the chances of that are so astronomical unless all of a sudden every single one of your followers shares that post. Like that's the only way that you're really going to get like maximum reach on a hey, we're hiring post. And so it's the same thing with like your services. Like just posting about that is not going to
Yeah.
magically get you business. And you just touched on this too, but the biggest thing is like people. You have to show real people. The best thing you can do is like the selfie. So like you mentioned the photo of the coffee. To make it a little better, you with the coffee will
Right.
be 10 times more engagement because people that are following you are like, "Oh, I know Becky. There she is. Look, she's smiling. Like I know this person." And so that's what you want to do when you think
Yep.
about social media from a personal standpoint and how it's consumed and how people post on Facebook specifically. Like they're posting photos of them and their family. They went on a hike. They had a picnic, right? They're at Disney World. We want to post the same way on our business pages that are just like photos of us. Here's a birthday that we had of a staff member. Like I think Canva got super popular. Stop using Canva. I think it'll save people a lot of time and just like I think it's overused in people just like feeling like they need to put their logo on everything. It's like just post the photo as is, as this raw, real photo, and you will see a greater engagement in that content.
100%. Let's talk a little bit about, and again, chime in, everybody, if you have questions as we're talking. We want this to be a fluid conversation. But I had a few questions about paid ads on social media. And so I wanted to dive into that a little bit. So specifically, here we go. He's getting ready. Specifically, Facebook and Instagram. And I have a theory on this, but I'm curious yours. Should we be using paid advertising? And if the answer is yes, when? And like, what kinds
Yep.
of things should they be doing, be using paid advertising
So
for?
the reason why I was like, rubbing my hands together and getting excited because I literally have talked about this like multiple times this week with people and clients. So the timing is just kind of perfect. And I want to talk about like the first most important thing about ads before I even get into the when and what you should be doing. The number one thing when it comes to ads, first off, they work. 100%. They do in fact work. However, they only work if you know what you're doing, right? And with that, you need to, people that know what they're doing have tracking systems that can determine that when you, this is why ads work, right? Because if you're doing it right, you give Facebook money and then they give you business. And if there's not something that's tracking and coordinating the money going out and the from this ad and it coming into your business, then we're just throwing money and like, oh yeah, let me boost this post and see if it works, right? Like let me just throw money at this. And like people are like I literally was on a call with someone yesterday, like, oh, Facebook ads don't work. I'm like, well, who was doing your ads? Oh, it was like my sister. And I'm like, well, what does she know about ads? She's a designer. She knows nothing about ads, doesn't know how to do them. And like, here's the truth. I blame Facebook for this also. Sorry if I feel like I'm ranting. I get real hyped about this.
Means you're
But
passionate.
yeah, when it comes to um Facebook, they're like, boost a post. Here you go. Like they want you to give them money. And it's unfortunate because you're not going to get any results in that way. And just like boosting a post like that. Um, like just getting more people to see your post without actually having any tracking coordination. Now, could there be an element where like maybe you boost a post and then your inquiry management process is very dialed in? You're like, oh, like, did you see an ad on Facebook? And then maybe you're able to see it. But again, that has to be tracked that this person called. Then this person signed up and you generated X amount of revenue. And then how that revenue then coordinates to the amount of dollars spent on that ad. And so like a lot of times what boosting post does, it just gets you in front of more people and gets you likes and comments. And then people are like, oh my God, look how many likes and comments you're getting. But those metrics don't matter. I don't care about views. I don't care about numbers, and neither should you. All that you should care about is leads and sales. That is all that matters when it comes to advertising. So that's the first part. The second part, when it comes to like when you should do this is going to be dependent on a lot of where you're at in your business, but I will say most people do this too soon. Most people start trying to run ads too early because they have resistance around marketing. They don't want to go out marketing. They don't want to hit the boots ground running. They want to sit behind their computer and just like get business. And so they're like, oh, well, ads is easy. Let's just do that. I can just throw money at my problems. And this is where people get into trouble because they're just like throwing money and they're like, why isn't this working? And in home care, right? Because this, again, understanding that this is a different business. This isn't like you're selling an iPhone case, where you could like just turn on some ads and someone's like, cool, I want to buy that, and they buy it. This is this is home care, right? Where the majority of your clients are going to come from referral sources. and they have the potential to send you higher qualified clients, better clients, right? Like, and the fact that they've been referred means that they have a higher conversion rate. And so at the end of the day, you only have so much time in the day. And so if you're spending it on Facebook ads that are going to get you cold leads, it's super cold, harder to convert, potentially not qualified, right? Versus if you just spent that more time building relationships with these places that have the potential to refer you 5, 10, 20 clients a month from certain referral sources, that's going to get you the best clients, the best return, the best results.
Yep. And I think, I love when we're talking about referral sources too, it's important when we talk about the tracking, it's so important that we are tracking and keeping track of how often we're nurturing those relationships, because even though they might be, the referral sources might be sending you leads, right? It's important to not only look at the amount of leads, right, and how much time we invest into those relationships, but the quality. So, for instance, when I had my agency, we had a referral source that used to send us headaches, right? Like we just would call them the headaches. They were just the clients that had very unrealistic expectations, and they would always come from this one referral source. And so at some point, as you get to be a certain size, you have to evaluate your different referral sources too, and understand which ones are worth the investing more time. Not, it's beyond just the number of leads. It's the quality, like you said, it's the conversion. And it's also the leads that identify with you as an agency, right? About which ones align with who you are and the clientele that you want to take on too, right? So much of what I think you and I both really resonate with is understanding the identity of your agency, right? And understanding who you are and being able to speak to that, right? Because all agencies, for the most part, we all kind of do the same things, right? At a core. Some have, specializations and, the differentiators, but at the end of the day, we all kind of do the same thing. And our big differentiators are going to be us and who we are and our voice and why we're even in this industry. So I think it's also important to talk about, like, to look at the numbers, but also not necessarily only the quantitative side too, the qualitative side about what kind of clients you're getting from these referral systems. Um, there's a question here that I kind of wanted to pivot into. Okay, few questions are coming in.
Yeah.
This one let's go to this one. How important is it to include a caption with the photos, or do they not need one? How can I use social media to create a community for my caregivers? So I'll let you go first.
Yeah. Absolutely post a caption. It's actually, in my opinion, more important. Because here's the thing you have to understand about captions. Um, Part of way the algorithm works is that it's not likes and comments, it's the only form of engagement. Engagement can also mean someone stopping and hitting that read more button or clicking the photo to like see who's in the photo. And like that's why group photos can be really effective strategies where you post a group photo. And so that caption element is your opportunity to get real. And this is where people are like using ChatGPT and they wonder why they're not getting engagement from their social media posts. It's like because it's super generic and clearly AI. And so
Mhm.
like there's ways to use AI that like are personal. If you saw a post that I shared today about Becky was like all of these real things that I feel about Becky. And I'm like, she's awesome. We connected. Like, I love how authentic she is. Right. And so then I had it create that for me, but it's still me. So when you read this, it's like, well, Nick clearly had something to do with this. And so if it doesn't feel like that there was a human behind it, then you're going to lose that. And so when you write more, people will hit the read more button, they'll spend more time, they'll look at it, right? And so that's now going to help with the algorithm. And so how we do that from the like a caregiver perspective is like what I often see all the time, someone just like caregiver of the month. It's like, great, what'd they do? Why was this important? What was this impactful? What are some things about this caregiver that make them so special? It's like, how can we input that personal element into, you know, were they working with a specific client? Like, what was the situation that earned them Caregiver of the Month and earned this shout out? Like, these are things that we
Mhm.
want to tell, like storytelling. How can we input more storytelling into our content?
Yep.
That's going to make it so much better, so much more impactful, so much more real.
And it goes back to that culture piece too. So I agree. And I think even like when you're doing the birthdays, but and they're big, so they make the caregivers feel really important. And they are. They're the cornerstone of your business. You should absolutely be highlighting your team. So whether it's anniversaries, birthdays, caregiver of the month, or just special shout outs or whatever it is, right? My big thing when we would do stuff like that when I had my agency was it wasn't just happy birthday, Nick. I would try to make sure there was something, whether it was an award they were winning, like again, why? Or even if it was their birthday, like we would say things like, you're so amazing. We don't know how you're doing it all with balancing school and blah, 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 to show that we actually knew our team. Because what that's signaling, right, is not only do we care, and it's making the caregiver feel really special. The caregiver is hopefully going to share it. And then their friends are going to see it and be like, wow, they work for a really nice company. Maybe I want to work for them, right? That's A. B, your clients and prospects are also watching. So it's showing that you are actually taking care of your team. And that's something that's important that, I don't know if potential clients and current clients are necessarily thinking that's what they're looking for, but it's sending the message that you're taking care of your team, that you care about your team. Therefore, you're going to have a higher caliber of people that work for you. And it speaks to the quality, right? So it's so much to me, it's so much bigger than just a post. It's really highlighting what makes them special, why you love them, why they're valuable. And it's going to do so much. And I mean, I remember our clients used to follow us, and our clients would comment about their caregiver, or like the families would comment about like, so and so is amazing. We're so lucky to have you on with our family. That's so meaningful to see that, right? And as a caregiver, you're probably not getting a ton of recognition. You're probably that means a lot more to them than I think anyone realizes, right? To that end, too, I'm curious, like, what's your stance on hashtags these days?
They don't work. Hashtags are
It's
absolutely
so
irrelevant.
funny. You
Stop
you could talk
wasting your
to
time. Yeah.
talk to 100 people and get 100 different opinions on this one.
Well, I just listened to the CEO of Instagram who said
Yeah,
that they're irrelevant. So, like, again, I just go to the sources that I think are the best. And so there is one usage for hashtags, and that is like an event that you're hosting
yeah,
that has a custom hashtag. So if you have like a wedding or an event, like I
yeah,
host an event, right? So we have a custom hashtag that is not, when you click it, it's only things from my event. It's not like a whole bombardment of like if you hashtag caregiver. It's like no one's looking at like when was the last time you clicked a hashtag? No one clicks hashtags. It just creates clutter in the post. It like I will say there is some like there's the reason why this is the case is because the reason why hashtags were created, it was with the intention of telling people what the post was about. But now the algorithms are so good, it is
hmm
analyzing the photo, it is analyzing what you're saying. It doesn't need help to tell people what it is. And then people think that if they use these common hashtags, that all of a sudden they're going to be discovered. So like events, and then like TikTok has some like hashtag capabilities, but like all of the other, I never use hashtags. I've trained my custom ChatGPT to never use hashtags. Actually, it was funny today because I posted it and it was like it did hashtags even though it knows I doesn't like it. But then on the bottom it said, "Would you like us to remove these hashtags?" So it like actually prompted me to then tell it to remove it because it knows that I don't want them.
yeah.
There you go. So that's my take.
All right. Um, it's funny because I've heard so many different theories on it, and I think it changes. Like the algorithms are just changing all the time too. But I do feel like it's becoming less and less of a thing. This question, I want to make sure we're answering the live questions too. So I'm trying to go back and forth. But do you need consent from the caregivers to be included in social media so we can share their stories?
Yeah, this is
So
super simple. Add it into your employee contract.
exactly. That's what I was going to say too. And, make sure they know. that it's in there. And if they really don't, because we had caregivers that did not want to be on social media. So just make sure you call that out. Yeah, include that into your handbook and include that into your policies and procedures when they're getting onboarded. But just make sure you call that out and say, because a lot of people don't read stuff too. Make sure you call that out and say, if you really don't want us to be posting any pictures of you, please let us know. Right. And an easy way to make sure you have those photos is when you're onboarding them, take the picture. When you're onboarding them, like just make it part of your process. If they don't want, you can ask them to send you a photo. What we found was that we'd get a lot of selfies with the duck lips and they were heavily edited and they didn't even look like them. So, I prefer to go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say also it's how you phrase the question. So like if it were me, I wouldn't ask them, "Can I take your photo?" I'd say, "All right, here's the next part of the process. We're gonna take
Yeah.
your photo now."
And here's
And
why.
you just yeah, and here's why. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like this is part of the process,
Yep.
and again, it's like you want to work here, this is part of the process. Like if
Yeah.
someone really fights you on it, then I guess you can be a little lenient. But again, if you give them an out, they will take the out. So don't give them the out unless they really like push back. You know,
But
that's my opinion.
and I agree, but
Yeah.
I'm gonna politely disagree from an agency owner's standpoint that when they're coming in for orientation, they might not be, they might not have
Oh,
prepared for that.
look nice. Yeah,
So
fair.
they might have come from another job and they might be looking kind of disheveled. So I understand that they might say like, not today, can I send you a picture? That happens in the agency
And that's
world.
okay as long as they send it. As long as
Yeah.
you get,
Yeah,
the
and you put that in
photo,
your
or
files,
you
and it's
can.
part of your onboarding process. 100% agree. But yeah,
Yeah.
so I hope that answered your question. Yes, but it's an easy part. Nick and I agree. It gets put into your onboarding paperwork that you're having them sign. Same
This is
with
like a.
client. Oh,
Oh,
go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say this is like a side note that I just thought of that has nothing to do with social media, but I don't know what you guys are doing with like caregivers, but to me, I think it'd be so cool if you printed out all of the photos of your caregivers and just had like a wall of all your caregivers. And so then when you're like, well, we want to add you to the wall, like here's our wall of caregivers. We want to see our team, and
Mhm.
like you could even have them hold a piece of paper that just says their name or something like that. I don't know. I just had that idea and I thought it would be
We actually
cool
did
to have
that.
in your office.
We did that at our agency because our agency, our caregivers, we call them pearls. And the reason we call them pearls was because our philosophy is you have to shuck a lot of oysters to find a perfect pearl, right? And my company was named after my grandpa, who was Papa, so they were Papa's pearls. I will say though, just be careful with that because it can be challenging because obviously there's turnover, so you have to constantly, be
Hmm.
working on that. Also, if you don't have a diverse workforce, right? You could run it. So just, be careful with that too, I think, in case, there's not a lot of diversity and somebody sees that there could it happened where we had comments. So just, but yeah, I love that. I
Fair.
love
Yeah.
building that out. But I mean, obviously there's nuances with everything. Okay, we're gonna just keep moving. I like this question. So much social media, but it's something we deal with. So, how does buying leads compare against hitting the road? So we've all done it. We've all been there. The paper leads, mixed feelings, right? I personally have. Do you want me to take this one first?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. So I those lead platforms, right, can be great, but they could also not be great. I typically tell agencies, newer agencies specifically, it's a great resource when you're getting started. But you have to go in with the mindset that you're not going to probably convert a lot of it. But the reason I like them initially and not long term, just for a few months, is because when you're getting started and you're brand new, you're still feeling out how you're going to position yourself, how you're going to talk about yourself. So I like those platforms because it's giving you an opportunity to kind of work on your pitch and work on your spiel, so to speak, right? Without having a lot to lose. And it's getting you to build that process of, okay, we call, we follow up with a text or an email, whatever your process is going to be. But nothing is gonna ever compare to getting on the road and meeting people and getting coffee with somebody face to face as a referral source. Like they're very different ways of getting clients, right? What's your take on that, Nick?
I was gonna say the exact same thing.
Oh, look at
That's
us.
it's yeah, it's terrible for if you're like established, like stop wasting your money. You're gonna get terrible
Yes.
quality leads. They're sending your information to, you know, multiple people, or they're sending information to this client. They're sending multiple agencies. So like they're getting now bombarded by agencies that they're calling, whatever that number is, which, you know, sometimes can be three, but sometimes it can be more than that, which is
Yeah.
like crazy to me. Imagine filling a form at a website and then getting like 15 phone calls from home care
Yep.
agencies. Like that would be, I would be so annoyed as a
Hmm.
prospective client. They're already going to just be mad at you probably just by calling them, right?
Yep.
And but I agree with what you said in that it is great for just getting started to like
Yeah.
maybe get your first couple clients, like because you can get some clients, but again, it's just the quality is going to be low, the conversion is going to be tough. You're going to
Yep.
be like trying to follow up, and you're like, why aren't they answering me? You know, and so from that standpoint, it's tough, but it is good to pretend it can help you to get those first couple clients, but it's not something that you should be, you know, depending on.
Right. And I think and Nick's gonna love what I'm gonna say now. Um, but I think that follow-up is probably even more impactful and using video as a follow-up, right? Because again, they're getting hit by three, four, maybe more agencies. And they're all kind of saying the same things, I'd imagine. But what if you had this amazing hero video or even just a video of yourself talking and you just say like, hey, I received your information because no one likes to read. I don't like to read. I say that as I'm in the at the end of I'm writing a book. But I still I'm not a big, like it has to be a good book.
It's
But
what you like to read. I don't like reading things like on websites or sales things. Like I do like reading books, but like we're not sending them a book, you know.
right.
So I'm
But
with you. Yeah.
leverage video as much as you can, right? And that's why Nick's here, the video guru. But video is going to go a lot further than just an email. So if you could even like send a text, but include a link to if you have a hero video or just a video of you sitting in your office, whatever it is, that's going to be a lot easier for that person to connect with you as opposed to, we had a client that's been using leads and they sent a follow-up email that just said, like thanks for reaching out. If you want to give us a try, give us a try. And when I saw that, my head almost popped off because I was like, no, that's not how we do this. We need to appeal to the emotional side of what's happening. You need to use, if the lead says they're looking for care for their dad, reference that. Make sure, copy and paste is only going to get you so far. You still need to personalize things, right? Even with AI, you need to personalize it. You need to bring it back to them. Use names in the video. Use their name. Hey, Becky, thanks for reaching out. Or use a hero video if you have one. And just, you could say like just following up, I know you're probably getting called by a lot of agencies. I wanted to send you a quick video to learn a little bit more about us and our mission. Boom, right? But have that follow up piece. If you're going to use the lead platforms, you need to follow up. A client told me this week that somebody else told them that following up on Saturdays was their way of following. Like they would follow up during the week, but they would also follow up on Saturdays because no one's calling them on Saturdays. And that's how they were able to convert most of their leads. And I was like, huh, interesting. I would not have thought about that, but I could see why that would work. So you kind of have to test and learn a bunch of different approaches. But I think my biggest thing with leads is that go into it with low expectations. Don't expect very much from it. And then if you do end up getting something, it's just icing on the cake.
Yeah. At its core, and it doesn't matter whether it's, you know, buying leads or any leads, it comes down to how are you different.
Yeah.
And most people are just like offering the same services, and they don't really care about that element. They want to connect with you on a deeper level and know that you're the right person. And so, you know, sending a video that tells your story or sending a personalized video, which if you're wondering from a tactical standpoint, I recommend the software Loom,
Mhm.
Loom. There's other video messages, but it basically just records something, a video, and then it creates a link for you that you can then just send. So it makes it really easy for sending personalized video messages, and then you can even see if they watched it, which is kind of what's nice about it to be able to see whether or not they even viewed it. And then yeah, if you have like a more polished version that you want to send, that can also help. Because again, other people aren't doing this. So
Mhm.
it's like if they're just, blasting, hey, here's our services, here's our, we've attached our brochure. Oh my God. Does anyone like, I don't know if people look at that. I just think like sending a brochure is like a crazy thought process thing that people do. Just like in a digital age, it just seems crazy
Send
to
them a
me to
link to
ever
your
send
website. It should be the
a
same thing.
brochure.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. All right, let's keep going. We have a question, a live question. I know Nick has talked about this many times, but I wonder about posting on personal pages. Maybe my hang up is I have two small businesses, a home care agency and also a house cleaning business. I've been told it would be probably confusing, which may be true. So what's
Yeah.
your opinion on, I mean, I think this is going to be a very I mean, I think people have different views on this, right? What's your take on this?
Yeah. Well, first off, shout out Jay. You're the man. Love you, Jay. Um, Jay, side note, I gotta share this. Jay sent me a video singing a Christmas song with my name in it. So instead of I want a hippopotamus for Christmas, he sang
Oh,
I want a Bonitatibus for Christmas. And it is like my dad loved that so much. He told like my whole family. Like I have a big Italian family. He told everyone. So Jay, there you go. Appreciate you.
I
Um
feel like we should include that in our follow-up. So
yeah.
I'd like to hear that.
There you go, Jay. Put you on the spot. But yeah, personally, like I think about my own personal brand as more than just my business. And so the reason why I'm constantly building my brand, and again, to give you like a scope of like how I envision social media marketing and what my overall marketing strategy is from growing, scaling, potentially selling, right? Which is what many of you guys want to do. And so the way that I think about it is I'm building the business brands while also building my personal brand so that if and when I sell my business, I still have built an audience on my personal brands that they can leverage me for the next business or leverage me for writing a book that I also want to do. So I'm glad to hear you're writing a book, Becky. That's awesome. And so again, the personal brand is really impactful. And so when I talk about personal branding, like you're so much more than your business. And so to me, Jay, what I would focus on is like you're talking about both businesses as well as talking about things you're doing in the community, things that you're doing, your family, friends, like all of the things that are a part of your brand, posting that in addition to posting the things about the business. Because again, to me, it's all about how good you market it. Not that it's confusing. Marketing is how are you like creating the content that makes it very clear that you have these two businesses. And so, what I would do, right, again, right out of the gate and be like, did you know this? Right. And it's like, we actually have two businesses. Here's this one and here's this one. Right. And like just marketing it that you have both and occasionally posting about both because what it's going to do is it's going to build the brand and you can kind of almost build the brands together as like two entities and you being the vehicle that connects the two brands together. So
Yep.
that's my view.
Yeah, I agree. I think, I mean, I guess it also depends on like where you're at in your entrepreneur journey. Like for me, it's easy. Like my brand is I am my brand. I know that. So it's easy for me. I do post a lot on my personal pages, but then like even my Instagram, my work Instagram, my consulting page Instagram, it's a lot of my family. It's a lot of my personal life, right? Because I am the brand. An agency is going to be different. So I agree though. Um, would it be confusing? Probably not, because you're going to be very clear about if you're talking about the cleaning business or if you're talking about the home care business. But at the end of the day, Jay, you're about helping people. It doesn't matter, right? And so people are going to follow you because of you. And they might not be in need of a cleaning service right now, but down the road, they might. And already knowing you and seeing how committed you are and how much you care, that's what's going to push people to want to work with you, right? Because there's lots of cleaning services too. But
Also,
I want to work with
go
someone
ahead.
I know and trust. Go ahead.
For you specifically, Jay, those two businesses are very aligned. I mean,
Mm,
how many seniors need cleaning services? Like, to me, I would be selling them together. Like when
right.
you talk with um, a prospective client and you notice that the house is, I mean, obviously home care is like light housekeeping, but if there's a huge need for a deeper house clean, that's more thorough, then you could like almost add it as a bonus that like as the start of care, the cleaning agency comes in and does that before the start of care. Like to me, there's a huge alignment from that standpoint. And so I would think that there's a lot of ways to, work together where you can again grow both businesses at the same time and kind of use yourself as a referral partner.
Yep. I love that. On our last talk, we talked a lot about LinkedIn. Or we started to talk about LinkedIn and we got a lot of messages after the fact that people were surprised that LinkedIn was such a powerful tool to grow your business. And to be very upfront, when I owned my agency, I never was on LinkedIn. And it's probably to this day one of my biggest regrets because I think we could have grown a lot more from a referral standpoint. So I'm curious, because we got so many questions after the fact about LinkedIn and how to leverage LinkedIn. So I was hoping we can dive into that a little bit. How do you find successful agencies are leveraging LinkedIn for their business? And what do you think is the biggest benefit of LinkedIn for an agency?
For sure. I mean, the biggest one I would say is just like getting in front of key contacts, is like the biggest benefit. And the reason why it works so well from a strategic and how you do this is leveraging your personal pages and then tagging people that are in it. So like let's say you're at a networking event and you have a couple of your core people and you take a photo with them or you take the selfie with the group or you get everyone to take a photo, right? Which is one of those things too. This is kind of like a side note, but like when you're the photo person, most people are like, "Ah," right? But then after we take the photo, everyone's like, I'm glad we did that. And so like
They're like, send it
it's
to
okay.
me.
Right. Like
They
people
act
want it
annoyed
even.
and then they're like, send that to me.
Exactly. And so like when you can be that person and be the person that's like organizing and like, being the person that takes the photos is always really great to be able to post that photo because then you tag everyone in it. You tag the person that ran the event. And I actually work with some marketers where they get a lot of comments on their LinkedIn constantly. And she credits me, but I'm like, no, you're out there, like you're doing the work. But again, it's just like, how are we strategically doing this in the way where, when you're doing something, you're tagging people, you're referencing it, you're making it personalized, so where the tagging is really comes into play because you end up getting in front of way more people and then they're seeing you. I mean,
Mhm.
even just from using the example today, like I posted something, then you shared it, and then I forget, I'm sorry, I don't remember her name, and then someone else shared
Nikki,
it, and I was
Nikki
like,
shared it
yeah,
from Rosemark.
yeah.
Yeah.
So thank you, Nikki, because that was awesome. Because again, it's like boom, boom, boom. Now
Yeah.
all of a sudden, my post is getting shared. It's getting more reach. This webinar is getting more reach
Hmm.
from this engagement. And the other thing that I think is really important from a LinkedIn perspective that people often like don't realize is that the algorithm is different and you're connected with a lot of different people that maybe you're not connected with on Facebook. And so, for example, my brother's posted about, he has a t-shirt like embroidery. He works for a company's sales rep for this company. And I'm like, dude, get on LinkedIn, right? And I told him. And then he made a post and one of our like childhood friends that we've known for years, right, who he's also friends with on social media, right, that hasn't seen any of this content, all of a sudden sees this LinkedIn post, connects with him, and then boom, he got a sale. And so, like, here's this someone that he knows like very well that didn't know what he did because he wasn't seeing it, but because he posted it on LinkedIn, now all of a sudden this new person
Yeah.
saw it. And so there's just a whole nother audience where there's a lot of people that don't have any social media, but they have LinkedIn. And so just like there's a lot of people that don't have LinkedIn, there's a ton of people that don't have all the other platforms and they just have LinkedIn because they're like, this is my professional platform. The other thing to note, okay, I forget if I mentioned this on the last one. LinkedIn, the average income on LinkedIn is 70,000 versus the average income on Facebook is 40,000. And so when you think about it from that perspective, that actually like potential clients, not referral sources, potential clients have a higher like again, they're more your target customer because they can afford the services that you offer, right? An important element of home care is like, do the people that you're marketing to have the resources to pay for your services? And so LinkedIn, there is a higher element where I had one of my clients, again, he posted a video, you know, about a topic. I forget what topic it was. And then that person commented and was like, oh my gosh, like I need services. And then they ended up signing up
Mhm.
for overnight care 5 days
Mhm.
a week. Now, do you think an overnight care 5 days a week is all that they need? No, they probably need even more than that if they're getting that overnight care, right? So one post got this client, again, a friend that he's known for years, that now resulted in, you know,
Yeah.
5 days a week overnight care.
Yeah. It's, I think LinkedIn has changed. I mean, everything. But I remember like in my corporate days, like, 100 years ago, the thought of posting anything personal on LinkedIn would have been like people would have, rioted, right? This is not the space for this. And now I feel like that's the stuff that actually gets more traction. Like when I post on LinkedIn something emotional or something, about me and my life and not necessarily about my business, that's what actually does better. And I think it's because we have this ongoing desire to, we're so disconnected from everyone. We want to know that we're not alone, right? And never in a million years did I ever think that LinkedIn would have been the place to do that. And it's really transformed. And I think home care is such a great space because we can be business, but also personal at the same time. Um, and I think it's interesting because I think back to like my corporate days and like I just remember that would never have been accepted, right? But now
And
it's
that's
like,
still common in how people view it. Not that it's how people are posting, but it's how a lot of people still view it. Like they don't want to post anything personal on LinkedIn. And they're missing out on this opportunity because again,
mm,
how we started this conversation is that social media is about connection and building relationships. And
yeah,
if you don't share personal things about yourself, then no one has the opportunity to get to know you better.
yep.
And so when
Especially, yeah, go ahead, sorry.
no, go ahead. What were you gonna say?
Especially as like we're out there trying to build referral sources and build relationships. Again, there's hundreds of agencies. What's going to make someone want to meet you for coffee? It's because of you. It's not because of the name of your agency. It's because of you. And that's we just
Yeah.
have to remember that I would recommend if you are on LinkedIn, you're posting from your personal LinkedIn page, right? Not your business page. This is about you and about why you're in. And I think maybe I have this view of this personal piece of LinkedIn because we're in such a personal industry and we're caring for people, not only our clients and their families and the caregivers. So it's just part of what we do. But I think that's what people want to see. They don't want to be sold to all the time. That's why there's no presentation here for us talking. We're not selling anything, we're talking. But that's to me, that's the whole point. And also, one last thing I'll say on this is I think LinkedIn is a really powerful way to build community too within our industry. When I ran my agency, I felt very lonely, and I'm very upfront about this, right? I was very isolated. I was drowning because I was taking care of everybody, right? And I was everything to everybody, but no one was there for me, right? My husband's wonderful. He does the best he can, but he was not my support system when it came to this industry. And I think what I really longed for was other people who understood what I was going through and what I was struggling with, which is why we developed these dinner series, because they're really ways to connect with other people who get it, right? Who just understand. And I think LinkedIn is a good way to be able to build that community within our industry.
100%. Yeah. And to reiterate, because I think it's an important element, is again the personal pages. Like, yes, I have a business page. Yes, we're consistently creating content on the business page, but I am very emotionally connected to my LinkedIn personal because
Yeah.
like I want it to be me. It's something that I don't think I'll ever outsource. I don't want to outsource like ever. And some people do, and it's so obvious that they are,
Yeah.
where they're just like posting this generic stuff. Like I want it to be like when I'm inspired, like I post something. And so sometimes there's fluctuations in how consistent I am, right? But because again, but that's what I want. I don't want it to just be like where I'm so regimented because what happens whenever I do that, then I'm just posting something to post something and then it loses its luster.
Yep.
And so it's again, it's like how authentic can we be? How much are you willing to share? Because like that's honestly how much more you're gonna get from it. Like I love the post that you shared, with your husband when you got sick and just like and everything dealing with that. And that's a very personal thing to share in a public setting.
Yeah.
But like to me, again, that's memorable, right? I know that about you that I didn't know that before. And
Yeah.
so again, like this is what's real. This is what people connect with that makes you more human and people understand you on a deeper level, what makes you tick. And so again, you're so much more than your business. And so if you're only posting things about your business, then you're missing this opportunity to truly create connection, community of people understanding you where like people know your
Mhm.
story, people know why, people know your goals, people know your flaws, people knows the mistakes that you've made because
Mhm.
you vocalize this in a transparent and authentic way.
Yeah, there's and I don't think he's on this, but there's an agency owner in California. And I don't remember if I talked about him on this call or if it was a different webinar, but his name's Keyer,
Yeah.
Keyyur.
Uh-huh.
If you're not following him on LinkedIn, I feel bad because last time I mentioned this, I'm sure he got like a huge influx of followers, but you should connect with him on LinkedIn. He is a new franchise owner, but he is so vulnerable and so open about his experience and like not sugarcoating anything. And it's been really fascinating to watch. And I've been watching the traction, and other agency owners are it's helping so many other agency owners that are either in his same spot or were there. It's Keyyur. I'll have to find his last name. But
S-H-A Shaw.
Shaw, that's what I thought.
S-H-A-H.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
He's a senior helpers franchise. But it's fascinating, right? And it's because he's being vulnerable and he's talking about the mistakes and he's talking about the lessons he's learning. And I love it. I love it. I like every time he posts, I'm always like, yes. And I can't imagine I'm the only one. Thanks for sharing that, Nick. All right. I want to answer this question from Elizabeth. As we add photos from a networking event, and I now have cards, how do I tag them on my company page? And I believe, I think you're talking about LinkedIn. Um, but
Yeah, and I think part of this, like I was kind of touching on a little bit in the
yeah,
sense that like this is going to be more effective on your personal page than on your business
yeah,
page. And again, so it's like, um, what are you sharing, right, about this photo of these people that you took? Like, what was valuable about it? What did you enjoy about it, right? Again, and it's how are we inputting this personal element into, why should someone come to the networking event? This is like a side note. This is one of the best things that you can do from a networking event standpoint. Someone's running the networking event. So make sure that you know that person and you know them well. They're the best person to know in the room, right? And then you want to make sure that you get a photo with them and or that they are in the photo because they probably have a pretty good network because they're the ones that's organizing the event, right? So you want to take a photo of them or at least tag them and thank them specifically for hosting the event. Talk about why it's so valuable that people should come and join this networking event. So now you're promoting, right? Not yourself. You're promoting them. You're promoting their networking events so you can get more people. Why is it valuable that someone should come? Why is it valuable to network in general, right? That's a core kind of side note too that I wanted to touch on is like, how are you providing value, right? So again, I'm sorry if I'm using this example again, but like Becky's sharing her personal story. It wasn't about look at me and look at this story. It was this is what happened to me, and now I'm sharing and reflecting to provide value to you based on my own experience, right? And so it's not like you're just posting about yourself and like, oh, look at this, my life is hard or I did this really great. It's what value can you share in what you're posting that's going to be valuable for everyone else. And so you always want to kind of think about the end user or the consumer or the viewer in mind, and how is this relevant to them? How are you talking like with them, not at them?
Mhm.
Right? And like that's just a good overall social media thing to consider, because there's a lot of just talking at people
Yep.
instead of like
100%.
really talking with them as if they're listening.
Yeah. And to Nick's point, yeah, I mean, so the example he's saying is my husband had open heart surgery a few years ago. My husband's a very fit, he's a black belt in jiu-jitsu. Like he's the last person you would think would need a valve replacement. And it rocked our world, right? It was so unexpected. But the story was obviously that was awful and he's fine now. But had I not built an infrastructure for my agency, right, I would not have been able to be there for my husband. So it was telling a story about the importance of building an infrastructure and planning ahead for the God forbids. But that was the gist of the story. And it was on the anniversary of my husband's surgery, which is why I shared it. But we are at the end of, I just don't understand how this goes so fast. But social media, we're not gonna get through everything. There's just so much about social media. I learned some things today. I hope our attendees did as well. We will send out the recording. And both Nick and I will be on it. So if you want to reach out to either one of us, but Nick, why don't you let people know how to find you beyond email?
Yeah, I mean, I love LinkedIn, so you should connect with me there.
Obviously.
But if you want to learn more about like what I do, it's thedigitalchamps.com. But I'd love to just connect with you online. I'm sharing, value consistently and not just promoting my business. And that's a big part, is like how
Yeah.
can I continue to educate people in a way that's going to provide value, not just in video marketing, but I post a lot of kind of personal development things, because I
Yeah.
think that, the harder you work on yourself, the better your business is going to do.
And do you have your event coming up again this year?
Yes, so I am hosting an event in San Diego. Early bird ends at the end of this month, so May, end of this month. It's gonna be it's the end of September in San Diego. It's 2.5 days, and my whole goal is that it's more about connection than it is about content. And like what I find with a lot of, and that's kind of the intention of what we're doing here, is that we're really diving deep into these things that people are curious about, and the conversation often stirs up a lot better content. And so the goal of the event is, yes, there's going to be speakers and presenting, but it's more about connection and learning from each other, because there's so much more that can be offered. And like, similar, Becky, sharing your story about feeling alone in your agency, events is the best way for you to
Yeah.
really connect with like-minded entrepreneurs, home care agency owners, and especially if you're not part of a franchise. A lot of franchises have that community that they get. And so from an independent, like you really got to go to these conferences and events so you can connect with more people that understand your difficulties and problems and struggles.
Yep, there's nothing
And
like it.
also
There's
thank
nothing.
you for letting me pitch that. I appreciate
Yeah, it looked like so much
that.
fun. I want to be able to come to one. Well, you know how to reach me. I'm on all the socials as well, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook. I will email out the link for this. If you have more specific questions that we did not cover, reach out to either one of us, both of us. We'd love to help you. Otherwise, I will let you all get back to your days, but thank you so much for joining us. As always, Nick, it's a pleasure.
Always. Thank you.
Of course. Bye.